licensed and marriage family therapist. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. All right, so today we're going to talk about attachment. What is attachment in adult attachment theory? All right, so according to John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, he basically says that what attachment means is it's a lasting psychological bond between human beings. And we tend to get our attachment styles through our early childhood. And our early childhood experiences with our caregivers, typically our parents, help shape and form an imprint into us how we love and then how we receive love, and basically how we behave in an adult relationship. Okay, so attachment has four main characteristics, and they are proximity maintenance, a safe haven, a secure base, and separation distress. Okay, so let's start off with proximity maintenance. All that is the desire to be near someone that you're attached to. That's all. So just imagine a mom and a toddler at a park, and that desire from the toddler to be near their attachment figure, which is their mom. The second characteristic is called safe haven, and that's just returning to the attachment figure for comfort and safety in the fear of danger or a threat. So just imagine that same toddler at the park with mom, and maybe a dog comes or another child comes, and the child might feel a little threatened by that and will run back to the safety of mom. The third characteristic is the secure base. And the secure base is the attachment figure acts as a base of security from which the child can explore their surroundings. So the child can feel free to explore the park, go on the slides and run around and explore, knowing that the mom is very nearby. The fourth characteristic is called separation distress. And this is the anxiety that occurs in the absence of the attachment figure. So let's say toddler is exploring the park, looks back, mom is not there anymore. Maybe mom went to get a drink of water and toddler can't see mom, and some level of stress or fear might arise in the child, and that is the stress, the distress that the child might feel. So I want to briefly go over each of the attachment styles and talk a little bit about what might have happened to that child in childhood and what their behavior might look like, and then what that same person might look like in adulthood. Okay, so there are 5 main different attachment styles, and I personally like to use terms from a book called HowWeLove.com. And the authors of that book, Milan and Kay Yurkovich, have a website at HowWeLove.com, and they have a free attachment or love style quiz that you can take to identify your style. And I'm going to use the terms that they use in the book. All right. So there's a secure connector. There's a avoider style. There's a pleaser style, a vacillator style, and then we've got the chaotic styles. Okay, so in the literature, they call it by different names, but I'll get into that later. So the first attachment style I want to talk about is the secure connector, or the secure attachment style. In this child's early years, there was probably a lot of stability. Parents were probably pretty emotionally responsive to their needs, and parents probably inquired about their feelings, offered a warm, consistent, secure base for them, and the child probably knew that they could approach the parents with any kind of distress or feelings that they had. And as adults, this person tends to have long and trusting relationships. They tend to have pretty good self-esteem. They're pretty comfortable with their feelings, with their friends and partners, and they have a good social network. So the next style I want to talk about is the avoidant attachment style, or what we call the avoider. And in this child's early years, stability may or may not have been interrupted. So perhaps maybe a divorce, or a parent that's an alcoholic, or a parent that goes to work a lot, or maybe there's multiple siblings, or even a single parent type of home can create an avoidant style. And so what happens to this child is they may unintentionally or intentionally be emotionally neglected or dismissed. So their emotions and feelings aren't necessarily nurtured consistently, and this child learns at an early age that there's no real recourse or resolve for their emotions. So perhaps when they approach the parent might dismiss them. They might be too busy. Parents might criticize or even shame feelings by saying things like, "Why are you crying? I'll give you something to cry about." Those kind of comments. And at an early age, usually around age 8 or so, this child may disavow their emotions, and they start to compartmentalize and suppress their feelings and needs, and they learn to just fly under the radar and just stay busy to cope with the situation, but they're not necessarily processing their emotions or understanding their emotions. So emotional development usually is thwarted around that age. And so a lot of times I can have adults, when this person grows into an adult, they can be operating at a very young age, actually. This person as an adult relies heavily on logic and problem solving and solutions. They tend to minimize problems. They tend to minimize their emotions and the emotions of others. They might feel overwhelmed in a relationship with another person's emotional neediness or requests. And what this avoider, might do in the relationship is shut down easily. They might invest little emotion in social or romantic relationships. They might show low empathy for themselves or others, and they might be unable or even unwilling to share their thoughts and feelings with others. So people might accuse this person of being apathetic, indifferent, not caring. They just sort of look aloof. Okay, so let's talk about the pleaser attachment style. In the attachment literature, this person would be called the anxious avoidant attachment style, but let's just call them the pleaser. In childhood, they may have had a parent that was hard to please, and this child had to guess and read the moods of others, their parents. A parent may have been overly anxious themselves, maybe emotionally needy. Maybe this parent depended on this child to act older than they were or to meet the parent's emotional needs because maybe this parent's marriage wasn't emotionally satisfying, so they relied on the child for that. There could also be a very critical parent in this dynamic where the pleaser child experiences that critical parent as very hard to please. That parent might look for the negative and might criticize the child's efforts. And as a result, this child learns as a coping mechanism to learn to please others. So this is when the pleaser role kicks in. This child may take on the pleaser role to reduce the anxiety or anger in their parents. They may feel a lot of distress when the parents leave. The child may act clingy or needy. They may also sometimes be rescued from frustrations and lack problem solving skills because they're very busy observing the moods of others. So taking care of their own needs are low on their priority, and they really focus on others. And as adults, this person can appear to be very anxious and fearful when alone. They may behave very clingy and needy, perhaps even codependent. They might appear to be very agreeable. They might sugarcoat and lie to avoid conflict. They're conflict adverse. And they may appear to be indecisive and insecure. So this person is really seeking approval and reassurance in the relationship, something they probably did not get in childhood from parents. So let's talk about the vacillator. Now, the vacillator in the attachment literature is called the preoccupied ambivalent attachment style. And this child grows up in an environment possibly, remember this is generalized, okay? So possibly in an environment where there's a lot of intermittent connection going on with parents. So the parent might give some connection sometimes and then withhold at other times. Sometimes it's based on the parent's availability or mood, and they don't inform the child when they'll come back to connect with the child. The child sort of has to figure it out. And this parent might be emotionally unavailable one minute and then very available the next minute. So this creates confusion and insecurity in the vacillator child. So as a result, this child learns to read the moods of their parents. They they're very observant. This child does not appear to be comforted when the parents return to them. This child acts more ambivalent, like they are happy that the parent is giving them attention, but they're also perhaps angry or frustrated that it took too long. This child is hypervigilant towards signals of connection and abandonment, so they toggle from feeling insecure to excited. So it's all or nothing with this child. The child feels like they want the parent more than the parent wants them. So they're sort of feeling like they don't know where they stand. And as adults, this vacillator, what the way they behave in an adult relationship is they tend to form conclusions about their partner's intentions because they rely on their observation skills and their conclusions that they have to form, because perhaps they found a partner that is emotionally unavailable or is not very verbal with them and informs them of the information they want to know. The vacillator can feel very distraught at the end of a relationship or tries very hard to prevent a breakup. They might even stay in a relationship longer than they should, and they just ignore red flags because they do have an emotional abandonment fear there. This vacillator worries that the partner does not love them all the time, so they might indirectly ask or guess. And this vacillator style may also sabotage the relationship before they can get hurt. So they're very, very aware of the potential abandonment that they believe is sure to come, because this is what they experienced in childhood. So the last style I want to talk about is called the disorganized or the chaotic attachment style. And this kid typically comes from a home that's difficult. So there might be abuses in the home, or addiction issues, neglect issues, maybe multiple of these issues. And this child may even be required to take on a parenting role because parents are behaving like children. They may not have basic adult skills, and the child has to step up and take care of it. Sometimes the child will act as a caregiver toward the parent. They may show a mixture of avoidance and resistant behaviors. They may seem dazed and confused and apprehensive. They might be experiencing trauma at home, so in school they might appear to be uninterested in achieving and being successful in academics. The parent of this child may behave in a frightened way because they're victims themselves, or they might be the person who's creating the fright. This parent can act intrusive. They can behave in a withdrawing type of way or negative. There might be role confusion there, a lot of communication errors, and they're very often associated with many forms of abuse in this home. So as an adult, this person can be very victimized, or the other side of the coin is they can be abusive themselves. They may have a hard time holding a job or having self-control over their emotions or their behaviors. So you can see that with that sort of traumatic childhood, as an adult, they behave very chaotically or disorganized. Okay, so that's all the attachment styles that I wanted to present to you. And in a future video, I want to go deeper on each of the styles because I think it's very, very important. And I also want to do a video on when, let's say, an avoider marries a vacillator, what happens then, because there's going to be a very distinct role that happens, a very distinct core pattern and dynamic that ensues because of that collaboration. All right, so I hope you are learning more about attachment. I know that the content here was rich and dense, and thank you for sticking it out with me, and look out for the next video. And until then, thank you for watching, and aloha.